episode of Mitchell's Logistics Corner, where we bring you real time information of what's going on in today's logistics market. Okay, guys, my first live stream. This is exciting. All right, guys, so as you all know, typically I start most of my posts with the ocean freight rates. I have been getting some comments and some emails with people asking me, Mitchell, the rates that you're getting are nowhere near what I'm getting. Some are higher, some are lower. How is it that you're figuring out if your rates are actually like legit? Well, there is a website that I typically use. It's called Fredo's Data. And that's where I get a lot of my information when it comes to the logistics completely. It gives me a lot of history data and it also gives me current market conditions. So I'd like to share that all with you guys and show you what I look at on a daily basis. All right, guys. So if you guys take a look here, these are the China to the East Coast, typically into California. And this is 3 month data. So in September, when I was yelling and screaming about how crazy these rates were, you can see that the containers for these 40-foot, now these are strictly based on 40-foot containers. These FEUs were coming in at about $20,000. But keep in mind, that's $20,000, not including final destination, picking up the container, taking it. I mean, there's a lot of other accessorial fees. So yeah, it did get to close to 30,000. But if you look here throughout the month of September, it started to take a little bit of a dip. And I'm sure that's because a lot of these manufacturers and these steamship lines started to realize, hey, listen, when we're doing 10 times what we're doing, what we quoted before, it's going to cause some inflation and it's going to cause some issues. And this is why I scream all the time and I yell, guys, inflation, inflation. And nobody listened for months. Well, guess what? Now you're suffering. Okay, so and we haven't even seen what inflation is going to do. So let's get back to this. So at around August, it's still about 17, 18,000. And then you see this real big dip. And this dip is just because the peak season is over. This area is typically when the shelves are getting filled up for the holidays. And then it goes into a dip and then it kind of just stabilizes here. Now, I think that this stabilizes for a whole different reason, and these rates skyrocket up here. And I'm going to show you this other chart that I look at, and this is called a freight price range. And what I look here is it could tell you by month what the highs and lows were to the containers. And if you look across the last 3 months, I mean, these containers, like I said, look, $30,000 high, and as low as 7,700. Now, I think that those $7,000 containers were typically for these multinationals or these manufacturing direct shippers that had these huge contracts where volumes, you know, if their stuff didn't move, it was going to cause a big panic. So I think they kept some of it. But I think that right here towards November, you could start to see that a lot of these rates are starting to really stabilize, and they're going to be around $15,000 to $20,000 for an import container out of China. Now, here's something that's kind of mind blowing to see it in a different perspective. If you look here, last year compared to this year, containers were about $3,800 last year, maybe $4,000. But if you look now, it's crazy, 19,000 all across, but it's starting to stabilize here. And again, I think it's really stabilizing here because a lot of these carriers are starting to not really want to work with the forwarders. And I know I keep hassling and I keep telling people, hey, listen, I always rag on Maersk, but Maersk is the first ones to go out there and really make a make it kind of funny. So, but here's what I'm referring to. Here's another article that I'd like to share with you that really concerns me when it comes to rates. When I see these steamship lines making these interesting remarks. If you check right in here, it says, this is a clear message that their focus will now be on direct shipper contracts and provisions of landside of service packages. That means that they're going to now focus on the manufacturers, not work with the forwarders, bypass the forwarders. And the way they're going to do this is by saying, hey, you come to us, we'll give you better rates. You don't have a broker, and we have access to the final mile. This is causing some problems. Why? Because if you see Maersk doing this, it's just a question of time and a matter of time before the other steamships start to follow along. So this is absolutely incredible. They will have all the services in-house for shipping, land transport, and any ancillary clearance services as the forwarder, who added that had many long-term clients that would be exceedingly unhappy at this move. Guys, this is just one step closer of the forwarding industry to be taken in by these carriers. I'm really worried about these mid-sized to small-size forwarders. I mean, I'm hoping that they all get together and create one big forwarder and just make sure that's a nice forwarder here that the carriers don't go into, and you have that buying power, or something. But I mean, this is going to be crazy. And I know that our industry is a lot of it's based on relationships, but I mean, your relationship's only going to go so far. I mean, because once you get once you get people talking about pricing and rates, I mean, listen, you could have all the loyalty you want, but if to do business with you is going to be that much more expensive, you got to think about it. They're going to go to another client. They're going to go directly to the carrier. And that's the thing I've been preaching for such a long time. It's bad business practices. It's crazy. And I think that, at least if the forwarders get together and start really speaking to these lines as groups, you're going to do it. But if not, they're the carrier. I don't know. It's a scary, scary situation out there. And it's also causing a lot of havoc, a lot of havoc. And the reason why I'm saying it's causing a lot of havoc is because right here is an article. And you could see uh, forwarders are just stressed out, having to face angry shippers. And why? Because their shippers don't understand. We don't educate. I don't think as logistics professionals, we educate our clients enough. Or what we do is we're afraid to give them information that may scare them away to go to another forwarder or just go directly to the line. So that's a big problem, and they're always making excuses. And the shippers need to understand that your rates are going up, and they're not going to go down again. And when I hear a lot of these manufacturers speaking to me and telling me, "Well, Mitch, I've been paying this for so long," those days are over. And they're getting really angry at their forwarder because they're like, "Listen, I want better rates. I can't function." And the photo's like, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. The only way it's going to go is if you pay this." And when they get that price, they're like, "Listen, that's crazy. I'm going to go somewhere else." And this is going all day, all the time. And these steamship lines know what they're doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, they're literally just destroying the forwarding industry. At least the big industry that we have is forwarders. I mean, we have over 300 forwarders in Chicago alone, but I mean, it's really going to cause some major damage. Here they keep saying, it must be very hard if you're at a small forwarder. I think it's hard at any forwarder. Yeah, at a small forwarder, I could see it being a little bit harder because you're handling all aspects of the file. You're not handling certain parts like they do in the larger forwarders where they're a little more structured. But I mean, it's just incredible. And this here was really interesting for me is forwarders are feeling the brunt of the mismatch between demand and supply. Although, as most observed, would be a great to point out, as they are all paid well for doing so. Guys, I don't think that's true. I don't think they're all paid. I think that's why people aren't coming back is because they don't pay. And now that they're in a pinch, they want to pay. But what happens when it goes back down? I don't know. It's interesting. But issues such as lack of drivers and warehouse space mean that they're unable to ensure freight moves smoothly. I've been mentioning and preaching about this for months. It's the drivers, it's the truckers. We need more truckers, not apps, not any funny apps to try to do things like that. So that to me is a very interesting and I'll post those articles below and you should definitely read them. But it's very interesting how much of discomfort a carrier can make throughout the entire supply chain process. And they're clearly aware of this and they clearly know what they're doing. And it's just sad. And I think a lot of people are starting to catch on. I really do. I think a lot of people are starting to really catch on and saying, hey, listen, this is starting to get ridiculous. I did see our president talk about $100 for drivers or forwarders that return containers early. I think that's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in logistics. I mean, we really need to get these politicians involved and let them know what's really going on. Because if we keep hearing stupid stuff like that, I mean, people hear this all over the world. I mean, it's costing you thousands to get it out. You think that, they're going to return it because they're going to get $100 back. I mean, that's just we got to just really figure a way to get our head out of our asses. So that was a very interesting one with Maersk. I mean, they're pretty bold, and they'll tell you straight up, we're going straight to the manufacturer. Now, what's really fun is this article here. Now, this is one of the best articles I read because I think their employees are pissed. I think they're really angry. The employees at Maersk. Now, here's the article, and I actually discussed this on my post last week, but I just wanted to show you the article itself. So Maersk decides to give away $80 million in bonuses to their employees. So AP Moeller Group sets an award to pay each of their 80,000 employees $1,000 bonus for this year. Now, keep in mind that does not include the 400 executives that have probably made millions upon millions. And to kind of give you an idea why some of these people at Maersk are kind of these employees at Maersk are kind of pissed off, is because Maersk last year had the revenue profits of about $2.9 billion. That's right, last year. This year they're at $17 billion. Now, that's a heck of a jump. And obviously, these guys have been working a lot harder. But it's just amazing. And now the employees are upset. They're like, wait a minute. You went from 2.9 billion to 17 billion, and all you're doing is giving us $1,000. They're angry. I think it's Maersk is it's so. I mean, I get it. Screw the forwarders, but when you start screwing your own people, you're really screwing with the wrong people. Because your people are your company, and it's interesting to say the least. It's interesting. All right, guys. Well, that is, we'll wrap that one up for this wonderful Monday. So thank you guys so much for joining. I'll be streaming a lot more frequently. I'll try to put up a schedule and get more information. If there's any other markets that you would like to know about, if you also want to know about air freight, let me know. I will make a couple of videos also of how to choose a forwarder and the differences between a top tier forwarder and a small tier forwarder. Now that I got this whole streaming thing down, I think it'll be a lot easier. All right, guys. Thanks. And I hope you the very best week. Thanks and be well.